I'm Marilyn Roberts Coker. I was born in 1936, and we lived at Lily, Florida, on 40 acres of land. In those days, the cattle that my dad had was free range. There were no fences. People owned land, they didn't fence it. As people began to buy pastures and put in fences, he saw that soon we were going to have a fencing law. And so that's when he began to look for land that he could lease to put his cattle on. Mr. William Selby owned 6 sections of land east of Mica City that he leased to my dad, Elijah Roberts, who was called by all of his friends and family by Lige. In the decades of the 1930s and 40s. So this change began the business between he and Mr. William Selby. He went to him and they worked out a lease, and it was due once a year. Dad purchased 100 acres of land adjacent to the Selby property. Once a year, Dad got in the truck and drove to Sarasota from Lily, Florida, to pay that lease and to visit with Mr. Selby. It was an education for Dad to be able to visit with him, because they talked about Mr. Selby's other businesses and other interests as well as the ranch. In 1947, Mr. Selby decided to develop his property as a working ranch. And at that time, he hired my dad as the general manager for the development of that property, working with a gentleman named Don Newbern, who was the liaison person between Mr. Selby and the ranch. He was the person that Dad worked with. During that time, they built a barn, and they got a drag line in, tractors and equipment to clear the land and to drain the ponds and to make it amenable to planting improved grasses. Our Selby Ranch neighbors were very important to our family, and we're interdependent because of living in a rural area where we didn't have a lot of services, and so the friendships were really important. My husband was in the hospital, and his roommate was the captain of Mr. Selby's yacht. He said that Mr. Selby gave him the yacht in his will when he passed away. And we just, that gave us another idea of what a generous person he was and how important the people around him were to him. Mr. Selby's influence was far-reaching, even to the rural Mica City. We've never had a meeting place that belonged to the community, except at the churches, to have a library, to have services for the community is something that's been lacking since I was a girl. I know when I went to high school, if the book I needed wasn't in the library, I just didn't get the book, because it was too far to the libraries in town, and we never had a public library here. To save this piece of memory for all of us who went to school there, in the beginning there's a lot of deconstruction. You're taking out the old wiring and old things, the dropped ceilings and things that you don't want in there, and So we've been working on it for 26 years, as we could raise the money. Looking back, didn't seem that long. We worked on it as we could. We're all volunteers. We've never had a paid employee. It's the only piece of history in public hands in Mayaca City. But you know, I've lived here most of my life. I was the postmaster for 37 years. And this community has been really good to me. And, you know, where else would I spend my energy in my retirement years except for giving something back to the community, showing that the Selbys, the impact was big on the community, because it was big on me and my family, which carries on to today. Their generosity is part of who I am too.